Hello and welcome to Treasure in Every Verse. I'm your host, author, and Bible teacher, Kevin Madison. Thank you for joining us today. Okay, friends, we're back, and we're going to get right back in our study on essentially, folks, why God determined to choose some for heaven and leave others for hell. And folks, it really, you have to understand God to understand the stuff. And I don't mean that I understand God better than you. I only know what the book tells me. So if your understanding of God isn't exactly how God describes himself in the book, then you're gonna have problems with what I'm gonna teach you. Okay? And you're gonna have problems with the scriptures because you gotta remember the Bible, the scriptures, are not about you. It isn't about helping you get a better life. It isn't about fixing your kids, your marriage, your job. It isn't about feeding you, clothing you. It isn't about your welfare at all, or the welfare of the earth, or the angels, or anything like that. The scriptures, folks, it's God telling us what he did, how he did it, why he did it, and in the time of when he did it. It's all about God. And if you read it that way, then you're going to understand exactly what I'm saying because that's what the book is. It's history, his story, written in advance. Let's go. So we went over this, excuse me, we talked about the three types of God's will. We went over this one first, the sovereign will, which is God's decree. In other words, God creates something and it's established. The sun rules by day, the moon, the stars rules by night. Okay, God flung the earth out there, hung it up on nothing. There's nothing you can do about it. He set the body of waters, said you can come this far and no further. I don't care what you say, what you do, you can dig holes all day long. It's only going to go where God tell it to go. So that's what he's talking about when he says decrees. If God made you male, you're male. If God made you female, you're female. There's nothing you can do about that, friends. And you can go and change your body parts all day long. But inside, you absolutely positively know what you are and who you are. And there's nothing you can do about it. All right. So that's God's decrees. He just puts this out there and he's not trying to explain this to you. Then we said what the Bible teaches, a second will that God has is his preceptive will. And basically what that is God's commands, his moral commands, which are established by his decrees. The commands are given to keep you from hurting yourself based on his decrees. For example, gravity. God put in place gravity. Why? To keep you from hurting yourself. That's what he did it for. Now, if you decide you're going to disobey gravity and go on the 30-story building and walk off, then you decided you're going to break a decree that God set forth. Can't do that. Now, they can be resisted through behavior, but they have real consequences. You see it every single day. The Bible calls it, whatever you sow, you're going to reap. You hear people say it all the time, karma. What they mean is what God said. You're going to sow what you reap. All right. The last one that we want to talk about today is this one here. And this is probably, now, where do most people live? Most people live right here. They flat out forget about this one. It's up, that one don't, no, I got free will, that one don't work. But folks, it's the most important one. People change this right here. People change God's sovereign will, and you know what they say? Humans have free will. And they say God gave it to us. Friend, you can't find free will anywhere in the book. Nowhere. You cannot have someone sovereign and still have any of his creatures with free will. The only way you have free will is if you can determine everything. I'm not talking about free will today, but I just want to point that out. So what do people do? They yank that one out. Why? Because of this craziness right here. And that's not even found in the book. And the one that they love is this one right here. Everybody lives right here. Most people. This is where they live. By commands. So they get rid of this one. God's sovereign will. They live right here and they pretend like this one don't exist. They see it. It's witnessed everywhere. But they can't understand it. Why? Because this one here is spiritually understood. God explains it in the book, and he explains it in great detail. People just walk over it. Why? Because they don't like it. The problem with this one right here, the permissive will of God, is that they don't understand the sovereign Lord God. The only way this one right here can be true is if God is sovereign. Why is that? Because the effects of the permissive will of God are real, tangible, and you can see it every single day. Now let's go look at that permissive will of God, and you tell me whether or not you know it's real. Watch this. So you got sovereign will, preceptive will. Now we're going to get into permissive will. All right, look at this. And this is how you know this is real. And if there's not a sovereign God, folks, we're in big, big trouble. All right, the permissive will of God. Look at this. The permissive will of God are things God allowed to fulfill his own sovereign will. That's the only reason the permissive will is allowed. So let's read that again. Permissive will of God, which are things allowed to fulfill God's own sovereign will. That is, God has purpose to do some things. And I'll give you a hint. When you go throughout the Bible, look for stuff like this when it pertains to God. He says, determined. God determined to do something. God purposed to do something. It's everywhere in the book, friends. Let me give you an example. Watch this. Let's go to the scriptures and we're going to look at this because this is amazing. When you really take a deep dive into what God is doing, if you want to know. Look at this right here. Now, in my opinion, nowhere else in the book is there a better description of why God allowed evil, in sin.